Welcome to episode 7 of GBBC's educational webinar series, Not All Blockchains Are the Same. I'm Emma Joyce, Chief Revenue Officer and Head of EMEA at GBBC, and it's a true pleasure to have you all here today. For those of you joining us for the first time, this is a closed-door event exclusively for regulators, government agencies, and international standards organisations. The focus of these sessions is to bring clarity to the world of blockchain by focusing on the unique aspects and practical applications of different technologies. Designed to move beyond the hype, this series offers an in-depth look at blockchains, highlighting their development, distinctive features, use cases, and potential for compliance. Here's how today's session will run. For the first half, our presenter will lead the discussion and this portion will be recorded. Afterwards, we will stop the recording to allow for an open, off-the-record Q&A session. This is a space for you to ask questions freely and foster candid dialogue. Today's episode will feature Regen Ledger, a public, sovereign blockchain purpose-built for ecological assets. It enables the issuance, verification, and retirement of science-based credits, carbon, biodiversity, water, and biocultural, backed by open data and decentralized governance. Designed for integrity and interoperability, it powers trusted claims and smart contracts in nature markets, climate finance, and regenerative economies. We are thrilled today to be joined by Gregory Landauer, co-founder and CEO of Regen Network. Gregory leads the creation of a community-owned eco-credit registry and marketplace supporting verified carbon and biodiversity markets. A regenerative entrepreneur, ecologist, and thought leader, Gregory has dedicated his career to advancing ecological economics and building systems that align environmental health with economic prosperity. He co-authored Regenerative Enterprise in 2013 and co-founded TerraGenesis International, transforming it into a global leader in regenerative business practices. Gregory holds a Master of Science in Regenerative Entrepreneurship and Design from Gaia University and a Permaculture Design Certificate from Cascadia Permaculture. He also hosts the Planetary Regeneration podcast, where he explores the intersections of ecology, economy, and community with leading voices worldwide. Gregory, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Emma. Hello, good morning, good afternoon. It's great to be here with everyone. Let me just start my slideshow here. Really grateful for the opportunity to get to present to everyone. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Regen Ledger and Regen Network more broadly as a project. What we've been building is essentially public infrastructure built by the private sector to be co-managed by the communities that use it. And so I'm going to talk about market infrastructure. I'm going to talk about decentralized science infrastructure. I'm going to talk about emerging nature markets where we're making biodiversity, water, and carbon cycle outcomes that reduce risk valuable to start to shift the economics towards healthy soil, clean water, and clean air from a perspective that isn't regulation first, but instead is market first. Let's get into that a little bit. So first, I'm going to just walk through what Regen Network is. I'm going to talk a little bit about the layer 1 blockchain technology. I'm going to talk a little bit about our tech stack, our design philosophy. Then I'm going to work through a set of case studies, and they're fairly diverse. I didn't include any carbon, but we can talk a little bit about carbon in the Q&A if people would like. So the first case study is going to be marine biodiversity. The second is going to be Amazonian biocultural stewardship, which includes a biodiversity and sort of indigenous stewardship element. And then the third, sorry, I got my numbers mixed up. The third case study is going to be an institutional biodiversity crediting that we've been doing with the Inter-American Development Bank. and then we will go from there. It looks like I got my agenda a little mixed up. But so starting with the tech stack. So at the base of our tech stack is a layer one blockchain built off of the Cosmos SDK, which gives us fast finality, interoperability, and allows us to create a sovereign and application-specific blockchain that is specifically purpose-built for ecological claims and accounting. And so if you were to sort of think about the utility that we've been building out, it mostly focuses a little less on sort of super high transaction throughput sort of trading, and it focuses a lot more on decentralized management of identity, data, and execution of smart contracts in a secure, distributed way, because trust in these natural capital assets really comes from the counterparties, public and private, that can verify the veracity of the claims about the soil or the forest or the water. So you really need to create an infrastructure that can't be spoofed. And I didn't actually focus this presentation so much, but we are in an era of deep fakes. It's increasingly cheap to fake data and information, and Web3 technology, blockchain technology is really the antidote to making sure that you have immutability, and you need to do digital signatures back and forth to verify something. So at the base layer, we have this layer one blockchain that's purpose-built. We launched that blockchain back in 2021, and it's been running with 100% uptime ever since, doing pretty significant volume of the origination and sale and trading of these new ecological assets, as I'm going to be detailing: biodiversity credits, carbon credits, water credits, and non-crediting payments. So people are also using our blockchain to just remit for stewardship or ecological performance processes when they understand that their business or municipality or government can benefit from the risk reductions from those changes in ecological management. Okay, so the second layer is Regen Registry, which is a set of tools and data schemas, taxonomies, standards to be managing projects and data. So it is built upon the blockchain, but it also uses off-chain technology and publicly available schemas to basically assemble data into what we would call a project, which is, sort of all of the different scientific information that's needed, again, to be able to make long-term complex counterparty contracts about what's taking place on some piece of property somewhere. And then the application layer, there's a marketplace, there's a set of open APIs, there's a smart contracting framework that then allows people to build and extend that functionality for different purposes. So the attributes that we've built this upon, starting at the ledger layer, as I was mentioning, really set up the foundation to structure healthy markets. And that's what we're really all about. We want healthy markets so that there is competition between counterparties for ecological performance, so that our farms, our forests, our watersheds, our countries are actually able to compete and gain market advantage and bring that market advantage onto their balance sheet, specifically around ecological health. So this is a very different paradigm, I'll just note, than kind of a regulatory first, compliance first imposition of environmental regulation. Of course, all of these tools can also be used to publish regulations, to govern and manage those regulations. And we do have a lot of standards, but those standards are primarily to create a safe, healthy environment for market mechanisms, right? In which the value of healthy soil, healthy water, healthy air is able to be internalized into corporate and nation state balance sheets. So the things that are needed to make that market structure healthy at the base layer, this blockchain is sovereign, neutral, and vertically integrated, right? So we don't have a rent-seeking infrastructure somewhere else. It's sort of purpose-built for this. It's pre-competitive. the project developers, the buyers, the land stewards all co-own and co-operate this trust infrastructure. We have an engaged and globally distributed validator set that's securing things. It's powered by a governance token that is and fee token that is sort of bespoke and purely for this application, which also becomes an index for the various different diverse assets that are being matured and brought to market by the community. It also serves as a bridge so that you can move these assets from our blockchain, and most of the trading actually takes place on Ethereum, on Solana, and beyond, Base, Arbitrum, various different L2s. So we're just sort of like the trust layer and governance layer, the asset origination layer, and then those assets move out into the broader world. Also off-chain, there's also off-chain trading that takes place. So, and then let's just moving up the stack here. We have enterprise grade registry infrastructure that allows both project managers and institutions like IDB, buyers, sellers, to basically manage the origination of these assets against published standards so that you can say, is the right data according to the right standard there? And if so, issuance takes place. It's very cheap and easy to audit these assets. You know, is it true what I'm buying is going to help me for my corporate goals? Is it true that this is going to mitigate risk? Is it true this is going to help me to be working against a treaty, a multilateral treaty that a country has been entered into? All of that is a set of data standards, API integrations that allows these sort of rules and regulations to get published and then for transactions to take place against those rules. And then at the top layer here is the application solution. We have a set of partners that sort of white label the application and allow marketplaces to sort of appear in the branding, but be using the same in the branding, for instance, of Terrazos, which I'll get to in one of the case studies, but to be using the same open source, distributed, community governed infrastructure to ensure trust at the base layer. So, for those of you who have a technical bent, this is just a simple architecture talking about, as I mentioned, we use the Cosmos software development kit at the base layer, and then we've extended that with a set of custom modules. Our data module is a best-in-class graph-based semantic web data module that is actually, there's amazing things taking place right now with our MCP, Model Context Protocol, that allows people to build against our tools with AI very quickly. It's very exciting. There's the crediting module, the eco-credit module, which allows asset management, issuance, retirement, sale. Group module, which allows people to govern standards, register standards, create DAO infrastructure, and then a smart contracting framework, Cosmosm, and Ethereum virtual machine that allows people to create more complex if this then that kind of smart contracts, again, about these real world assets, either issuance, the science behind it, insurance policies, etc. Okay. So now getting into the case studies, I'm going to talk first about biodiversity. I thought it might be interesting to just share that with this group because in addition to sort of the cutting edge technological innovation, this is really sort of the edge of what you might call nature finance innovation, in which we are working to make biodiversity a valued asset, right? And internalize the value that is produced by biodiverse ecosystems to our global society into our economic system. And so the first example that I'm going to talk through is the biocultural jaguar credits. You could go to app.regen.network and you can actually see these projects live, where they are. You can dig into things. We also have, I mean, we have such an amazing, diverse set of land stewards who use this. We have people doing managed grazing in Australia and the United States for carbon. So we have ranchers, we have indigenous people, we have big corporate farmers. We have just such a diversity of different users. It's a rare thing, I think, in today's era of sort of political division. We all need healthy soil. We all need a healthy planet. And it's really quite cool to see the sort of plurality of different groups. So talking about biodiversity, oh, sorry, talking about sea trees first. Um, I think I've covered this. So I might come back to these just sort of open API integrations. So Sea Trees is a really fantastic partner. They're based out of California. They're doing seagrass restoration, mangrove restoration, coral reef restoration. They sell their credits and their impact to big companies like Salesforce, and they use our technology to develop and sell their credits. So the data backend, the asset management backend, but this is an example of a project developer out in the world doing really amazing work, not-for-profit work to restore our world's coastlines and oceans. And it's fantastic. They work with leading organizations like Scripps Institute, which is Oceanographic Institute, which is one of the world's best oceanography research institutions out in California. Um, the next one that I'm going to spend a little bit more time on is biocultural jaguar credits, which is several different groups in the Amazon are using this crediting approach. It was developed fully in-house by Regen community members, by our team in collaboration with a Brazilian team, and now is being used and remixed by communities in the Ecuadorian Amazon. And the reason that we call it biocultural is there's a whole sort of social theory of change intervention that allows a community to create their own sort of rubric and framework around their cultural preservation in this case, which is something that's important to them. It also allows funders to sort of guarantee performance in forest stewardship. So it's a really nice mix of trust building between funders and land stewards in this case. So starting with Shataminsa, this amazing community in the Ecuadorian Amazon. This is a drone photo of their community. Just to situate it, it's here in the lower Pastaza River region of Ecuador. The Achuar people actually have land on both sides, the Peru and Ecuadorian border. So there's a very interesting sort of transnational cooperation that's taking place here. And they're facing roads, both illegal and legal, although the legal without consent of the specific communities. But so they're facing this very interesting challenge of coming into the modern economy, needing money for maternal health, for potentially insurance, for educational purposes, for aspiration, for what young people want to go do. They're also struggling to keep young people in the community. And the main economic opportunities, of course, are mining, petroleum, and timber harvesting, all extractive. And so what we've done is sort of done a cost benefit analysis, is like, what is the minimum amount of dollar value that the community needs to be receiving year over year if they decide that they would like to be focusing their economic activity on cultural and ecological stewardship, because that produces an amazing set of ecosystem services. I probably should have included a slide about the biological hydrological pump that the Amazon is really responsible for a significant amount of the rainfall in Europe, for instance, right? So if the Amazon desertifies, global climate patterns change significantly, and that puts crops at risk and all of these other things. So people depend on this forest's intactness, and these people in turn provide the stewardship services that allow this forest to continue to be intact. So there's a real monetary value of that. Um, so just engaging the community, they develop a plan. That plan is published on the blockchain. It allows for, when the plan is successfully executed, payment to be remitted in stablecoin, or in some cases via traditional bank transfer, but with a evidence receipt that that transfer has taken place. This is another community further upriver and to the north that is also developing a similar but sort of bespoke and in their own way set of credits that allow them to do the same, which is to manage their forests in a way that benefits the global community and receive sort of a community payment for that management, right? Which can be averaged across the industries that are essentially require this forest intactness. Um, this is their community. You can see it's much further north in Ecuador. Um, Okay, now we're going to shift gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk about Terrazos, which is a Colombian project developer and has developed a new sort of institutional grade credit. Their biggest client is the Inter-American Development Bank, which recently, well, a couple of years ago, essentially, they're funding ports and bridges, big projects, and they're basically saying to the recipients of their loans, you need to show that you're meeting nature positive commitments. That is to say, the impact of your project development actually is improving biodiversity indicators in the specific region that you're operating. So that's they encumber their loans on those sorts of commitments, and we provide essentially sort of the data backend, the marketplace infrastructure, the registry infrastructure for those transactions and data management to take place. Um, these are all screens that are live. You could go and look. You can see how the data gets sort of anchored there with the project. There's kind of continuous ability to be managing that, and of course, you can't manipulate it. So counterparties can assess, audit, and verify that a specific report or a specific piece of data is accurate, and you can essentially that is all appended into the digital asset. In this case, this biodiversity credit, which is tokenized, always tokenized. So it becomes very cheap and easy to audit. So an institution like Inter-American Development Bank has guarantees about the actions that are being taken that their loan demands as a part of their contract. Okay, so all of this sort of creates, in summary, creates the foundation of a nature market infrastructure that is transparent for managing a claim, managing assets, managing the data that underpins that, creating the opportunity for distributed verification, meaning there isn't just one central body, which oftentimes leads to a collapse in confidence. But instead, you can have counterclaims, you can have citizens groups getting engaged if you want. It's very easy to create a distributed network of people who are engaging in the veracity of the claim. And collaborative governance frameworks. And I just want to sort of make it clear that the reason that we do all this work on collaborative governance frameworks, on transparency, this whole distributed ledger is because the specific asset class of nature markets does require community consensus. These are common pool resources. These are public goods. They're diffuse. Like just think about the value of the forest in the Amazon intact is diffused across, massive communities globally that depend on the hydrological cycle and climatological functions of the Amazon. So you need something that many different people can trust. Whereas if you convert that, wood into you think about it as timber, you convert it into lumber, a single company owns it and then sells it. The trust is really just, did that lumber arrive when I paid for it? So it's much simpler, right? But distributed ledger technology allows us to use computation, to use distributed verification to create a similar level of trust in much more complex counterparty situations in which you have land stewards who are stewarding value, reducing risk downstream because they're maintaining their forests so there isn't a landslide, for instance. And there's a big group of people that depend on that, but maybe they can't necessarily all go up and check and make sure that it's happening. That is the problem that we solve at Regen Network, and that we've created infrastructure and have these live market-ready and market-adopted solutions taking place. So what's really cool about this is the approach actually grows trust over time between counterparties because all of the participants have parity in the information that's available to them and can continue to build out that parity, thereby increasing the value of their shared assets, right? And so this is about creating new asset classes that allow us to bring what's amazing about markets, competition, into a domain that previously was really impossible because we didn't have the technology in order to manage that level of complexity. So this is really a shift from what people consider like a carbon registry like Vera, which is sort of an institution, to registration and data management as a process where people can access it and they can use it to assemble that data to create a new, highly valuable asset that really reflects the true economic value of land stewardship that is taking place. So again, just this is sort of a summary of what I've said. I'm about to shift gears into the question and answer section here, but we have standard governance tools where you can publish a specific standard, right? You can see who has adopted it, what their upgrade cycle is, and that is all embedded in the metadata. So it's very cheap and easy to see everything that you need to on sort of like the standard side of things, right? Also, seamless integration with high quality data tools, monitoring, reporting, verification. We can integrate satellite, drone, IoT sensors. We can also integrate traditional ecological knowledge or community consent processes or municipal election results right into the system. It's really quite simple. And this allows people to publish their own rating systems and create, sort of Moody's for nature market is something that some people are doing. And all of this allows us to create an innovation engine that has high integrity. So we're not sort of in a fixed space saying this specific standard or this specific approach is the best. Instead, we have an ecosystem that is allowing us to progressively evolve better and better and better approaches so that this new asset class has more and more trust and more value over time. So this is an example of some of our partners and some of the places we've been featured in. Mercedes, Microsoft. We've been doing carbon offsetting for Solana as a blockchain for several years. Polygon. So we sort of provide services both into corporate and Web3 with these assets where there's markets. And then we have a pretty broad ecosystem of project partners who we support in originating and tokenizing this new class of natural capital, these ecological assets. Again, specifically biodiversity, water, and carbon credits are the most common. And then there's other more innovative things taking place as well, although the markets for those other things are smaller. So I'm going to stop sharing here and sort of shift into the Q&A section. I think I hit the 30-minute mark here, and excited to see what sort of questions and dialogue we can get into about this.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gregory. So I think we're going to stop recording now.